Okay, so we have 3 examples here. So example 2, or whatever, it says solve the quadratic equation. So again, notice that there is no bx term. So our first step is to get this x squared by itself. So I'm going to subtract this positive 2 away. Again, this 2 is positive, so let's subtract the 2 away. The 2's cancel. 4x squared comes down. 198 minus 2 is 196. And then we'll divide by 4. And that gives me x squared equals, and this will come out to be 49. So the x squared is by itself, right? Now we will do step 2, which is getting or taking the square root of both sides. So I take the square root of the left side, the square root of the right side. With that 49, make sure you put a big plus or minus in front of that square root. So let's simplify the 49. So we actually did it earlier. 49 is actually 7 times 7. So 49 is actually just 7 squared. So if I take this up here, I'm going to do x equals plus or minus the square root of 7 squared. And the square root and the squared cancel, and the 7 comes out, and your 2 answers are just plus or minus 7. You could split it again, and you could write it, or you could write it as x equals 7 and x equals negative 7. Okay, next one. All right, here we go. So we have 5 minus x squared equals negative 22. Again, I want to get this x squared by itself. This is a positive 5, so we'll subtract 5 on both sides. So I have negative x squared equals negative 27. This is a negative 1 in front of the x squared, so we're going to divide both sides by that negative 1. And I will get x squared equals positive 27. So that's step 1, isolating the square root of the squared. Right. Next, I will take the square root of both sides, and again, don't forget to put that plus or minus in front of that square root of 27. And now let's break down 27. So 2 does not, but 3 does. 3 goes in there 9 times. 3 is prime. 9 breaks down to the 3 and 3. All those 3's are primes. And here we go. So let's group 2 of them together. So I will make this 3 squared, and then there's one more 3. So I will take x equals plus or minus the square root of 3 squared times the square root of 3. This 3 can come out because it is squared. So x equals plus or minus 3, but this 3 stays put. And that would be your answer in simplest radical form. Again, you could break it apart into x equals 3 square root of 3 and x equals negative 3 square root of 3. Or if I asked for the approximations, you would just type in 3 square root of 3 into the calculator. And I believe you get something like 5.198 or something like that. So it's going to round. And I've been doing it to 2 decimals. So that'd be x equals plus or minus 5.20. Remember that the square root button is in the keyboard on your Desmos. So again, simplest radical form or simplified radical versus calculator decimal. All right, last thing. There is an application that I want to talk about when it comes to solving with square roots, and it's this idea of a free fall equation. So free fall is just like it says, right? You're freely falling. Now, we talked about vertical velocity equation back in topic 8, I think is where it was, right? Where you have this initial velocity that you're throwing. It's like you're throwing a ball, you're hitting a baseball, something like that, right? Where it had this v sub 0 t term. But now when you're free falling, the object is simply dropped, and the initial velocity is 0. Because the velocity is 0, this term goes away. And now you're left with just the 2 terms here. Negative 16 t squared plus h sub 0. So this is why we can use solving square roots with this problem, or with this formula. All right, so let's take a look here. All right, so the question says, a mannequin is dropped from the top of a fire department training tower. The equation below represents the height of the mannequin off the ground t seconds after being dropped. So here's our equation we're going to use. And it says, how long does it take before the mannequin is caught by the trampoline 3 feet off the ground? So he's going from here all the way down to here, and we're going to get caught right here 3 feet above the ground. So the initial height is 67, but the height we're trying to get to is 3. This is going to go in place of the h of t right there. Your height is 3. So I'm going to put it last. So my equation is going to say negative 16t squared plus 67 equals 3. I want to get the t squared all by itself, so I'm going to subtract 67 on both sides to get negative 16t squared equals negative 64. Then I will divide both sides by negative 16, and that'll give me t squared equals 4. And typically here, we just want a rounded answer, so we'll just take the square root of both sides. Notice here that I'm not going to do plus or minus. No plus or minus. And the reason is here is that it's a word problem. And we don't want the negative answer. Okay? And when you take 4 and plug it in the calculator, the square root of 4 is 2. And your time is 2 seconds. So after being dropped, it takes 2 seconds for this mannequin to free fall from 67 feet high all the way to 3 feet high. All right, great. So you have the worksheet attached. You are doing all of the problems, right? You get no break today. Every problem is due. Again, I'm not there to check them, so I apologize. So do your best. Maybe check with your friends who you're sitting with, and then you're going to turn in both, right? That's why it's stapled, both the notes and the worksheet to the substitute. All right, thanks for watching. We'll see you on Tuesday.